An important function within the deplyr package is known as summarise. Summarization, or summarize the function, allows an individual to perform summarizations on grouped data. Consequently, the summarise function works hand in hand with the groupby function. The groupby function is a way to select a column along which one wants to perform the summarization. Let's take a look at this through an example. In this case, I'm going to be storing the results in a data frame called df, and I'm going to read the CSV file in. But the CSV file this time I'm going to be reading in is going to be CO2 per capita.csv. Once I've read the CO2 per capita in, I understand it to be in wide form, so I'm going to be converting it into long form by gathering it and not selecting the country column to gather, setting the key column up to be year, and setting the value column up to be CO2 per capita. Once I have done this, I can then think about what I want to summarize in this long form data set. What I'm going to be summarizing this data set by is country. I want the average CO2 for each CO2 per capita for each country across this entire data set. And so I'm going to be performing a group by operation where I'm grouping by the countries in the country column. Once I've grouped by the countries in the country column, I can then say that I want to summarize based on values of country. And what I'd like summarized is the average CO2 per capita. And so I'm going to call this the average CO2 per capita is equal to an average implying mean, and I can say mean of CO2 per capita would be one summarization I want to perform, and I'm going to say num rows, or how many rows were used in that summarization, is going to be n, or really the number of rows for each group. Once I do this and execute it, I can take a look at what df is, or I can take a look at what the head of df is, and I see that I have 4 countries. I have a column for average CO2 for each country, and have the number of rows that were involved in calculating those values of average CO2. As you can see, what the group by clause is doing is it's identifying each unique country in the country column and then calculating average CO2 and the number of rows for those values of country. In fact, one doesn't need to just do a summarization by country. One can also do a summarization, in this case, for the second example, by year. And so I can calculate the average CO2 per capita for each year in my data set. And so average CO2. And so I should be creating a new column, yearly average CO2, which is the mean of CO2 per capita, number of rows equal to n. I'm going to call this df2. Once I run this, I can then take a look at the head of df2, and I notice that while df2 has 41 observations, so I have 41 years of data, the first couple of years are shown in the head, with the average CO2 being 10.0 and then steadily increasing with minor fluctuations. Consequently, you see that the summarize operation allows us to identify a column by which to group the dataset and then subsequently perform summarizations on it.